So how does that change this week, knowing he's more into the reps?
Yeah, no, it's just that, right? I mean, last week was a very abnormal week. Anytime you play a Thursday game for what both teams, it's abnormal. It just was extra abnormal because those guys truly had not, Puka had truly not practiced yet. Until that Tuesday, which was just a walkthrough. There was no like week before getting ready or anything like that. So he was doing it on the side, obviously with his rehab assignment. But no, I mean, when in any sport, when you practice and you're playing that sport, you just going to get more comfortable and hopefully just get more better at your craft. So just having him back out there yesterday kind of felt like normal, and then being able to stack it on today when we get the pads on, it'll just hopefully for Sunday, well, it's not the first time he's been back in 6 weeks, it's the second time.
After the game, when we'd asked him, what did you miss the most? I was expecting an answer about running onto the field or that first catch. He actually said practice. It was being in the team involvement. Is that abnormal?
Not for him. I mean, he's a stud. And that's he's a very talented athlete, but he's a better person and better competitor. There's not a lot of guys built like him. So it's just good to have him back. And I'm like I say with all these things, your guys, you're happy for them to get on the field, and so just happy for him and Cooper and some of the guys. In a few weeks that we get back, you're pumped for them.
Knowing how exotic Flores is with his fronts, when you see Bo and Justin handle everything without practice, only utilizing walkthroughs to prepare, what does that mean to you as a play caller? I mean, what does that mean to you as an offensive coordinator? And how much confidence does it instill in you in them?
Yeah, it was cool, because that was a exotic deal that they had to do in just a short period of time. So for them to go out there, not flinch, react to what they were seeing. I mean, there was things that Flores was doing that was a little bit abnormal, but you knew that was going to happen, and that was just kind of what we preached to those guys all week. So for them to go out there, not blink, just show up and play each play as its own, really cool to see them grow up in the moment.
Forgive me for not knowing the answer to the first part of this question because we don't get to see obviously the full Fridays
Sure.
sometimes, but you notice you installing a lot of red zone stuff. Has that been that way this entire season, and or what is your responsibility on Fridays for that?
I'm just trying to be, whatever Sean needs, So I mean, every week is fluid. I mean, as a head coach, you got a ton of responsibilities. I joke he has 99, I have 1, right? And my responsibility is to make sure, that whenever he's gone, I can, pick it up and handle it. So it's fluid every week, and I do what I'm told and what's needed.
Yeah, but that area has improved over.
Oh no, that has nothing to do. No, nothing has changed in terms of how we're going about our process. Like I said, there was a small sample size. We still got a long way to go in every facet of this game. So just because we had a good week last week, a decent week the week before, again, that's a very fluctuating area that changes week to week, even when you get a little bit later in the season.
And then, sorry, the third part of that question is having Cooper and Puka. How does that affect when you're in a condensed space like that, condensed area of the field? How does what defenders do to account for those guys maybe open up more space by proxy?
Yeah, I mean, each defense is going to be a little bit different. Some people are going to focus on player a little bit more. Some people are just going to play their coverage and be really disciplined with it. Neither is right or wrong, So you just kind of know going into that game what their plan is going to be, or at least what they showed, and you got to be able to react to whatever their adjustments are going to be.
The offensive line done well against two complicated defenses. What have you seen from them that's made them, able to succeed? And does that make you feel like you have more options offensively?
I don't know necessarily about more options, but just it's just like anything. I mean, the more continuity you have. I mean, these guys have played together for a few weeks, so you expect to have improvement, and we expect to even see more, and I know they expect to see more themselves. So, again, every week is just about just continuing to improve, continuing to gel, continue to play with the physicality that is needed each and every week to be a successful offense. Because among all else, yeah, they're learning, getting better at their fundamentals. They're learning this, I guess you could say what we're expecting from a scheme standpoint. But the physicality is always going to be what's going to take you to the level that you want.
Puka has talked in the past about an effort when he played in Seattle last year, just kind of trying to figure out, wanted to be in the right place at the right time. What do you, when you look back at that game, what do you recall about him in that game and what he did?
confirming that the game wasn't too big for him, confirming that, man, we probably have someone pretty special here as a person. And, luckily his body, can allow him to be pretty special on the field, and it's easy to say that about a guy like, Puka in front of you guys or to him or to in front of the team because he backs it up. He's a stud, and not everything's perfect. He expects way more out of himself than we expect out of him. So it's pretty cool to have him back, and I know the players feel the same way.
Coach, I often hear you talking about challenging your players to improve every practice and every week. I'm curious, how are you challenging yourself to improve as a coach today and this week?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. You're always looking to improve, so you're trying to just learn from these guys and what did we mess up. Us as coaches, we make as many mistakes as these players. Sometimes you don't get to see it because it might have happened on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You come up with a bad play, you suggest something, but it happens all the time. So you just try to kind of in those moments learn from it. We're not going to be perfect, but you just try to limit it as much as you can. And when you do make those mistakes, which happens quite often, take accountability in front of the players. If you're going to expect them to take accountability for their actions, we got to do the same thing, And so that's what's cool about this league. It's working with these guys, not you're not above them by any means. You're working with them and for them, really.
Mike, it seems just from the outside, what we talk about, obviously, less so maybe than what you guys talk about, is when you guys are climbing back from how you started the season and getting guys healthy. Sean McVay has emphasized sort of this be where your feet are approach, and says the work works and all that. And even when you come out here today, we're pointing out good things that are happening, and you're like, no, it's a small sample size. So I guess I'm wondering, how are you able to stay so even keel, understanding the climb ahead and the stakes that are ahead, and have you always had that?
I'm still relatively young, but I feel like I do know this league is week to week, and if you don't live that way through the ups and the downs, then it's too long. And if you're volatile in our process, the players will take suit with that, and so it's true. If you're, it's harder, said than done in terms of being where your feet are, but if you don't try to take that approach and really live by that, how are your players supposed to do the same thing? So again, that's the way we approach it. And I really don't know who we play next week. I have no clue. I'm sure if I thought about it right now, but nothing's even coming to mind. I know we got Seattle on Sunday. I know it's going to be a crazy test going up to that place. It's a problem playing up there because we all know why, and it's going to be a great battle for our guys.
Noticed today you guys added a punter to the practice squad. Everything okay with Ethan? Is there something to share?
Yeah, he's just sick, a little under the weather, so keep our operation the same. It's Cardi's kicking day, all that kind of stuff. Get a guy in here that he's familiar with, so all that kind of stuff.
Do you expect Ethan to be able to play?
I hope so. We'll see. Yeah, we'll figure all that out, but yeah, that's the hope.
And if he doesn't, is there much of a difference on kickoffs between him and?
Not really. No, Cardi's got a big leg, so he could kick off just fine. Just kind of one of those things where it was like we knew what Ethan did all year last year, and was able to kick a lot of touchbacks, and that was the route we were going, and so take that strain off of Josh in his rookie year, and that was kind of why we did that. But yeah, if Cardi had to kick off, no big deal. Yep.
Last time we talked about how Ethan had improved with his placement, with
Oh,
his
yeah.
punts. So how gratifying was it to see that?
Yeah.
get back?
Yeah, I think the plus 50s has been a big emphasis for him all off season, training camp into the season, still weekly. For him to put that ball out of bounds in that situation was incredible. Obviously a big boost to the team and set up a play in the next play or two to help us win a football game. So anytime you get rewards like that, the payment, like all the work paying off, it's always gratifying for the player to see, hey, if I just keep doing the right things day in and day out, I can have the success that I'm looking for. That's pretty encouraging.
We saw the physical result, obviously, of that play in particular, but what is sort of the mental or inter-locker room connectivity that builds when the punter or the kicking unit becomes an extension of the defense?
Yeah, I think that always helps. Anytime you can have three phases playing as one, and putting games together in a consistent manner, it helps validate our place in the game, and it helps also like making those players, like a lot of our guys are playing roles on offense or defense, and they're still contributing on teams, and the guys that aren't, or that are just fully special teams, to be able to put those kind of things on tape and play at the level that they're playing at right now is just an earned confidence that they're getting every day, and it's just rewarding to see that day in, day out.
There's
coming into the season when we were talking to you about the kickoffs, it seemed like we were stepping into the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
Now, midway through the season, what's your reaction league-wide?
I think it's still up for debate in a little bit of, I mean, if you look at just the pure numbers, you're like, oh, well, it's easier to hang the ball up. You gain a yard or two, actually you gain like a half a yard maybe on average, but then you're putting yourself at risk, and a couple kicker injuries have happened this year. Look at San Fran, 2 of them already. And you're like, okay, well, what's the risk reward of that? What's the penalties? Are they getting called? Are they not getting called? The illegal doubles, the holdings, the blocking the backs, the blind sides, all that kind of stuff. They haven't been as prevalent as I think you would think in this, with that kind of spacing. And so when that stuff's not getting called, and you're not getting the penalty yardage backing things up, and the turnovers versus the big returns, the explosives, the game changers, the 3 touchdowns. Even Seattle versus San Fran. San Fran's in pretty good control of that game, and Seattle pops one for a touchdown and really kind of has an opportunity to climb back in the game and gives them a little bit of life. And that situation is the risk worth the reward. Yeah, the other ones, you cause a turnover early in the game, great. You go out there and you tackle them at the 24, the 26, but then that one goes for a 100-yard touchdown. It's like, did it equal out, or is it like, so I just think it's dependent upon the head coach's philosophy, dependent upon the special teams coordinator, the players, situation in the game, a little bit of everything. But when you just look at the entire kickoff return dynamic, I do think there's obviously, we're getting the returns up a little bit. It's a little bit higher return rate. You're getting a better drive start. Some of that's because the touchback obviously moved up to the 30. And you're getting a few more explosives past that 40-yard line and more touchdowns. So I think a lot of those boxes are being checked of what the league was looking for. Maybe not quite everything that they expected, but definitely trending in the right way.
You have a dual perspective maybe on a guy like Omar Spades, because not only did you coach him a lot and work with him a lot on teams, but you are a former linebacker yourself.
Yeah.
So what can you tell us about him, how he works, what you've seen from him now that we're starting to see a little bit more of him on defense?
I think really I'm so happy for him. I mean, he's earned it. You hate it for Troy. Love Troy. He's done an incredible job. But you also, whenever something happens, you always look to the next guy and who that's going to be. And for guys like him and Hummel to split that and really own their roles and doing a really good job of communication. When you look at it, they're both football players. Like, that's the first thing, man. They have good instincts, they have good communication, and they play within the scheme, whether it's special teams or defense. And that's the biggest thing. When you get guys that own their roles and understand it and can contribute in their moments, you can't be happier for a guy like that.
Coach, you mentioned that there's a lot that goes into deciding whether or not to kick the ball out the end zone versus giving opposing teams something to kick. To completely mitigate the risk of explosive, why not just adopt the philosophy of just kicking the ball out the end zone?
I think there's a number of teams that have. Right? Obviously, we're in that category for the most part. I think you see a handful of teams, maybe 5 to 7, that kick pretty much exclusively touchbacks or try to. Some teams will return it from the end zone, and then you're saying, okay, well, they're -7. You're already gaining 7 yards of field position by the time they catch it, because it's no longer the hang time where everyone's getting down the field that matters. It's where the ball's caught. So if they're 7 or 6 yards in the end zone, everyone's leaving when the ball's caught, kickoff team and kickoff return. So it's all the timing and spacing now comes out of play for the return unit. So if they want to bring it out from 5 or 6, 7 deep, you have an opportunity to avoid and create those tackles inside the 25-yard line if they want to take the risk of bringing it out. And then you have a handful of teams that say we're going to put everything on the ground, pretty much like the New Orleans, Cleveland. There's a handful of teams that are like, we're going to make them return everything, and we're going to get better at returning or at covering kicks than teams that aren't returning it a lot. And there's points of both, right? I could see both sides. Just again, depends on the philosophy. The guy, I think a lot depends on who you have, who you're playing against, and what your team is. And I think all that has to play in. If you're just looking at it from a siloed one perspective of just special teams, you're not doing your team a service. And I think that's the number one important job for a coordinator, is to say, hey, what is our team? What are we? Do we need 2 yards? Do we need to gain 2 yards and put them at the 28 or the 27 versus the 30? Is the risk worth the reward for what we are? Some teams it may be, some teams it may not be. Some teams may say, hey, our offense isn't getting it going. I want to bring it out from 3 or 4 deep. I'm okay with the drive start at the 23 or the 24 with the penalty but we have a chance to have an explosive. We have a really explosive returner, X, Y, and Z, and that's up for debate for everybody.
In terms of just blocking philosophy, is flattening a defender more important than vertical replacement?
There's again different philosophies on that. I don't guess necessarily get into our scheme as far as that. No, you're good. That's a great question. Yes, you can create horizontal and vertical seams, and it depends on what you want to do and what your philosophy is as far as returning. But yeah, that's a great question.
So when they run out on the field, is it with a game plan like he's going to kick it out of the end zone?
Yeah,
that's what they're, at least given what your philosophy has been so far.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain times and kicks that are a little bit different. But yeah, I think there is an element of we have to expect them to bring it out.
Right.
Every team that we've played has brought kicks out of the end zone. We're not guaranteed to kick everything in the end zone. Right. We're not guaranteed that if we kick it 5 or 60 that they're not going to bring it out. So our intent of going on the field is understanding where the ball is caught and now what my block destruction technique is. Do I need a 2-gap? Do I shock and shed? Do I slip and avoid? All that is the spacing of the return team. What does my blocker do? Does he set firm? Does he drop deep? Where's the ball? All that has to come into play, and we're all going on the catch. So we have to make that a full speed decision right there of how our plan of attack is. But yeah, the mindset probably for most of these guys, and that's my job as a coordinator, is to keep them geared up for the one that happens.
Right.
The one mishit, the one they bring out. We have to make them pay if they do that.
Well, that's what my follow-up is going to be. So it's the worst nightmare. We're going to kick it deep, but it goes off the side of his foot, and now it's just kind of rolling around.
Oh yeah, I mean that's 100%. 100%. We got to go. I think that's one thing that we have to the guys' credit on our team. We have exploded off on the kickoff like it's coming out. They can blow it dead or take a knee or do whatever at that point, but we are going to take off on the ball is hits the ground or is touched. And that's our philosophy, and then we'll play it out from there. And if we slow down, we can slow down. But we've done a really good job of that. Knock on wood, we've done that so far this year. We got to continue to aggressively get off the ball so that we put ourselves in the best position if they do bring it out.
Chase, we've seen Josh be, for the most part, very accurate, but after a couple of misses weeks ago.
Yep.
What did you see from him? Can you take us inside how he reacted to that or responded to it?
Yeah, I think just he was dealing with some stuff and different things as everyone does throughout the year, and just body didn't quite feel right, and was having a little trouble feeling where his leg swing speed was and things like that. And it was just about trusting it, and he got back to that. And it was great to see all four of them go through last week. He's done a great job in practice and attacking the ball, and so I think he's in a really good place. There was nothing like mentally or nothing like mechanically. He just wasn't feeling great, and sometimes that happens, and we got to work through it. And the goal, and if you talk to kickers around the league that are really successful for a long time, on your off days, can you still be good? And that's the challenge. And for the most part, he was right. He missed a kick here and there, but he still had enough to get through a game in certain situations and make the kicks that mattered. Now we want to make them all, right? We want to make them all, and that's our job when we go on the field. Is we expect 3 points.
If Joshua was a Dodger hitter, if he was a Dodger batter, who would he be?
Ooh, man. I mean, Freeman, clutch. I mean, it is what it is. You got to come in the clutch time.
They've done an excellent job, and obviously the approach going into the Thursday night game, was really impressed with, the above the neck at the walkthroughs and stuff. It'll be nice here to go out, practice yesterday, be out and practice kind of at a full speed tempo today. But I think the players are really doing a nice job taking ownership of their roles within the scheme and communicating through the coaches, whether it's to the position coaches or straight to me as far as tweaking things, whether in the game plan, hey, we like this, or hey, we should call this, different things like that. I think there's some really clear lines of communication, and they're not afraid to kind of speak up, and those two are definitely leading the way.
Omar got thrown into that short week, knowing he's going to have an expanded role for the first time. Just what did you notice about the way he handled the preparation for that?
Yeah, he's a pro. I mean, since he's been here, kind of like what we talked about with Jalen McCullough, he's been a pro since the day he got here. I think Sean referred to those guys as grown men, and that's really what it felt. So, wasn't surprised to go out there and see him perform well, and he was ready to go. And obviously, he's still a young player, and I'm sure there'll be some growing pains as we get going, but really not surprised with how we performed.
From a pass rush standpoint, what have you seen out of that group in particular, that phase in particular, the last couple of games, and especially how the way that Fisk, Hurst, Kobe, Boyd, Eli have all worked off of each other?
Yeah, they've been excellent, and Giff and AC and Joe Caniglo have just done a great job with that group, and I think we've just put ourselves in positions to rush a little bit more, and then when you do that, now you can get in a little bit more rhythm. Maybe they're not quite as tired when they're rushing, and just like you said, I think those guys are getting a feel for rushing up each other, what they do well. I think we're starting to understand what they do well, and that's really putting all the plans together based on what the offense does, just trying to put your players in the best position to do what they do best.
You weren't necessarily the position there, a position coach the whole time you were here, but as part of the defense. It seems like, with Leonard, Von Miller, your edge guys, you've got these veterans that you would bring in. What's it like coaching young, first and second year edge guys?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, Gary. It's just educating them, on the NFL game. It's just like any other player, where just like we talked about with Omar, there's going to be a little bit growing pains as far as getting used to the NFL game, and that's any player at any position. And edge guys, or D, any guys in the front in general, whether you're talking about D-line or edge, those guys maybe mentally you might not as much stuff as far as the guys in the second and third level of the defense, but every single play. And I learned this, coaching outside backers, every single play you're engaging a blocker, whether you're in a one-on-one rush or you're engaging a blocker in the run, whether it's a tight end and tackle. So, having those guys where they can play as fast as they can and, kind of shut their brain off and think less, is kind of the best thing for them.
And is it exciting for you and your staff members, because you're getting guys that you can kind of mold? You're not getting veterans that, okay, what do they do well, and let's work with what they do well. You have a chance to actually mold young players. So is there some excitement?
Definitely.
Yeah,
it's definitely fun to kind of work with them and kind of see them grow and, see them take their lumps and kind of correct it and have some success as we continue to go forward. And definitely, you just we're just all kind of figuring out what they do well and trying to put them in the best positions.
One of the guys, obviously, you worked with for a long time was Ernest Jones, and have a great relationship with. It's a business, but it's a relationship business. But you're human.
Sure.
How strange is it? Will these
it's weird. It'll definitely be weird. I obviously thought about it when I saw the trade last week, and you love the person. We'll be connected and friend for life, and he knows I'm here, no matter what. Forever. As long as you need me. I just thought about his, his wife, and he just had his baby, and just thought about him as the human. Having to move twice in the same year, and it does. You feel for him, and you hope he's doing well. You hope he's in a great place. I know they got really great coaches over there, and it hasn't been necessarily weird yet this week because it's kind of one of those things we're not actually, the offense is playing him, so I'm not exactly seeing him on tape or playing against him. But when we go out there for pregame warm-ups or whatever it is, and I see him on the field, that's definitely going to be a little bit weird.
Coach, when you consider the tandem of Brown and Burst, they're among the league leaders in pressures. How exciting does their performance make you in terms of how great this offense can be? What are your expectations for them as a duo?
Yeah, we just want to see them continue to grow, and I think Kobe Turner loves to say it: just continue to earn the right to rush. You can't get pressures if they're not throwing the ball. You don't put yourself in a position to rush the passer. So continue to play with great fundamentals. Kill blocks and get off the ball, tackle, and then put the offense behind the chains and get the opportunity to rush. And then keep those pressures up, and hopefully the more and more pressures you get, the more and more sacks and the more takeaways you keep getting. So, it's exciting to see those guys grow. Love seeing how close those guys are. They really close friends off the field, and kind of Hoyt being the mentor of that room has been really cool to see.
Chris,
Two more.
You have 5 defensive linemen who are above the league average in pressure rate, and 2 of them are on the inside, Brady and Kobe. Can you explain a little bit more about how that allows you to move competitions around when you know that guys are getting that push?
Yeah, and I think it's really more of what, for the offense. There's not really one guy that they can target. It feels like, obviously I'm used to that kind of knowing where the whole stadium knew, with Aaron Donald here, where the protection was going. And, now you're kind of seeing it week to week, and it's a lot on us as coaches to kind of adjust in game to see, how these teams, value our guys and how they want to protect. And so it's been really fun where you have some guys that with some different skill sets to put them in different spots and see them grow together as a unit.
And then to expand on that as well, Sean's alluded to this a couple times, that how many jobs Mike White does for you guys. We can see it on tape, obviously, but do you have a name for the position that he plays? And can you outline a little more detail of what it actually is?
No,
that does for you?
he can go. We'll do some stuff where he plays, D line. He'll do some stuff where he plays outside backer. He'll do some stuff that's typical of an inside backer. We don't really have a name for it. It's just based on the personnel. He's kind of that position, whatever that is. So there's not many guys in the league. He's probably, there's not many guys, in the league that can do that with the skill set and how effective he is. And and he's also a really good pass rusher. He's really good versus run. If he just plays outside backer, he's a really good player. So we're really happy to have him, and he's done an excellent job as far this year.